Here are some of the common issues you'll encounter with mobile devices. The first is no display. Well, if you have no display, you can't do anything on the mobile device. For the laptop, there's several things that you can check. Uh, and for the mobile device, there are several things that you can check. And they're going to differ a little bit. But for both of them, you want to make sure that you try power cycling the device. And also make sure that you have the battery connected for both of these. Now, and make sure you have a charge as well. Now, for the laptop, you can make sure you can check if it's plugged in and see if you get a display. And then you can check your settings. We mentioned that if we press the function key and the F4 key, that we can change how the monitor is displayed from the laptop to an external monitor. Maybe it's only displaying to an external monitor and you have to change that with the function key. Another possibility is the brightness on both of these. Maybe the brightness is all the way down and you're in a very well lit area, or the sun is very bright and so you can't really see the screen even though it is on. So you can check the brightness as well. And then finally on the laptop, you may have to actually go in and see if the problem is internal. Could be that the flex connector from the display to the motherboard has been disconnected. It could be that the display has indeed gone bad. So there's a couple things to check there. But generally, with no display, it's because the device isn't getting power, or it's not on, or the battery isn't connected, that type of thing. So check the basic first. Then you have dim display. Well, with this, for both types of devices, you want to check the brightness setting first. And, it might be set to auto like this is, and that could cause problems when you get into a bright area, as I mentioned before. Now, a dim display could also be because the power is low. If you're running on battery, the automatic power saving settings will usually reduce the brightness so that you can still use the device at low battery power. And another possibility is that the laptop might have an actual problem. It could have a problem with the inverter. And we said that you can check that with the flashlight trick. Check that with your flashlight in a dark room and see if actually you can see the screen a little bit. Could be the inverter has failed. Could be that the backlight is going bad, and that could cause a dim display. And when the backlight fails altogether, that would cause a no display error. Usually the display itself doesn't fail. It's pretty rare unless it's been really physically damaged. And that requires a lot of force nowadays to really damage one of these to the point where it won't work at all. So no display, dim display. Always check the basics first. Check the power connections. Check the battery is connected. Check the brightness setting. And then you can move on to the internals. Flickering display. Well, flickering display normally doesn't happen on a mobile device, and it could, but it's rare. You might see it on a laptop, and a flickering display could be because of a couple things. One, it could be because of the settings in Windows. You might have a problem. The resolution might not work properly, or perhaps the color depth is too low and the application you're using will flicker. The best thing to do is to power cycle the devices if you get a flickering display. That's the first thing. And then turn them off, disconnect them, charge them fully, and then restart and see if you still have the problem. And with the laptops and the smart devices, you can go into safe mode, or you can go to safe boot. And there you might see that, okay, in basic video mode, you don't get that flickering, especially on the laptops running Windows. If you go to safe mode, you'll be at 640 by 480 with a low amount of color quality, and you might see that the flickering goes away. So you might need to upgrade the driver on the laptop or change the resolution or color settings. So a couple of possibilities for that. It is also possible that the flex connector just has a loose connection. And once you make that solid connection, you lose that flickering display. So a bunch of possibilities with that. If you have an external monitor and that's flickering, could be because the cable connection is loose between the external say the external HDMI or Thunderbolt port and the external monitor. If you can't display to the external monitor, the first thing you're going to want to do is check that function key and F4 on the laptop and make sure that you have the configuration right. That's the number one reason why the laptop won't display to an external monitor or projector, and it holds up conferences all the time because you have all those different options. You have the option to display on the laptop screen, or display only on the external monitor, or stretch the desktop across to an external monitor, or copy the display to both. So you have to make sure that that is set properly. Then you check the cable connection and make sure you're connecting to the right port on the external monitor. And also on the external monitor, if it has multiple inputs for video, you might need to manually select which one you're using on the on-screen display on that monitor. And you might see that on a projector as well. Now, let's say the touchscreen is non-responsive. Well, if you're on a mobile device like a smartphone or a tablet, that's a problem. You're not going to be able to do much of anything. So again, the power cycle is the best thing to do to start. Shut down the device, disconnect the battery if possible, put the battery back in, charge it up, fully charge it, and then see if you still have that problem. Now, the touchscreen might be fully non-responsive, and in that case, you do that power cycle, or you might just have intermittent problems. And if it's an intermittent problem, you could try cleaning the screen, and then you want to take a look at the screen protector that you're using. Sometimes they can wear out a little bit. Maybe it has failed, or maybe you need a screen protector, or maybe you need a new one. So try cleaning the screen and see if that's a possibility for you. But again, if you have to, go ahead and power cycle the device. Then you want to try and do resets on these devices. If you can do a cold reset and then back up your data, you might be able to fix the problem. If those things don't work, you'll have to take it to an authorized repair center. Now, as far as the laptop goes, the touchscreen can actually be disabled on laptops that have a touchscreen. So you want to check that that's enabled in the device manager. And then beyond that, you want to make sure that it is clean and it's performing properly. And finally, sticking keys. We're not really worried about sticking keys with mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets because they use an on-screen keyboard. And if there was a sticking key on the on-screen keyboard, it'd probably just be because the screen was dirty. It would probably just be because the screen was dirty. And so the real issue here is with laptops. If you have one sticking key, could be because the key was damaged, physical damage, or it could be because someone spilled some coffee or soda on there. And a lot of times you can just clean it and it'll fix the problem. You can use a little bit of that 50-50 mix of isopropyl alcohol and water and really clean the key good and press it a couple hundred times while cleaning it to see if that fixes the problem. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to go in and open up the laptop, pull the keyboard out, and then maybe you can clean it at that point, because here you can get little bits of coffee and soda and whatever in the crevices around these keys. And so if you take the whole keyboard out, you could clean the whole thing carefully and then put it back in. And if not, you'll have to replace the keyboard. So there's a little bit of a troubleshooting common mobile device issues. The display issues and the keyboard issues and the touchscreen and touchpad issues, those are fairly common. But always check the basic stuff first. Always check the common culprits. Make sure the battery's connected. Make sure you've tried power cycling the devices. Make sure you have power to the laptop if necessary. And use those function keys to check if you're working with an external display, and check the brightness and that type of thing. So that's it for this sub lesson.